Make sure to lock all your doors and windows. Prepare your favorite hot beverage. Switch off your lights. Get cozy and listen to these 5 terrifying tales. I almost found the bodies. In high school, I was at a party thrown by a kid I didn't know very well. I always got a bad vibe from him, but he was friends with a lot of my friends, and they all wanted to go. Everything was cool, and I was actually enjoying myself sitting out by a fire and talking with everyone until I got cold. I asked everyone if they wanted another drink and then went inside to grab some beers and hunt around for a blanket. I was just about to open up the hall closet when the host came in and started screaming at me about how I was invading his space and being a rude guest. I've never seen anyone flip out like that, so I just grabbed my stuff and headed home. A few days later, it came out that he had murdered his parents and left the bodies in a closet in their house. He had invited us over to party with his dead parents in the house. It's sick enough on its own, but sometimes I think about what would have happened to me if I had found the closet where his parents were hidden and I was separated from my friends, who probably wouldn't immediately notice my absence. He wasn't the mailman. When I was 11, I was homesick from school one day. My mom was a single mother and couldn't really afford extra time off, so I convinced her I'd be fine and could just watch cartoons and make myself a sandwich for lunch. I was laying on the couch watching TV in the early afternoon when I heard a knock at the door. I wasn't supposed to answer it, but the way the house was set up, you could see me laying on the couch from the front yard through a big picture window. I didn't want to be rude, so I walked up to the window and looked out. I couldn't see anyone, but I heard a man over by the front door say, "Mailman, got a package for you." I was a kid, so the idea of getting a package was really exciting to me, and I really wanted to open the door and get it, but I knew I wasn't supposed to and had a bad feeling about it. I decided to go upstairs and look at the front door from my bedroom window, which had a clear view of the area. I looked out and saw a man. He wasn't wearing a mailman uniform. He didn't have a package. I looked out into the street and couldn't see a mail truck either. I stayed locked in my bedroom until my mom came home and went back to school the next day, even though I was still sick. The blue truck. One day, my dad was late picking me up from school, so I decided to walk home. It was a long walk, which is why I didn't normally do it, but I figured he'd find me on the way and drive us home from there. After a little while, I noticed I'd seen the same blue truck going by me a bunch of times, and it was going slower than usual, too. This freaked me out a bit as my parents had recently had a big talk with me about safety, and I was convinced pretty much all strangers wanted to kidnap me. I ended up cutting across a neighbor's house and watching the truck go by before running home. I told my parents about it, and they were proud of me for listening so well. In retrospect, I don't think they believed anything bad had been about to happen at the time, but it was a really big deal when a kid in my town was kidnapped a few weeks later. It was years before they found the body, and a few more before they caught the guy who did it. He drove a blue truck. He didn't answer the door. When I was a kid, my mom wanted me to go to the elderly couple that lived next door and see if we could borrow a few eggs from them so she didn't have to go to the store. I knocked on the door and they didn't answer, but I could see the old man standing in the living room. I knocked louder and he didn't turn around. I thought maybe he just couldn't hear me being old and all, so I turned the doorknob and it was unlocked. I walked in calling out for him,
Hello?
It was so strange to me that he wouldn't turn around until I got in the living room and saw that he wasn't standing at all. He had hung himself, and I'd been trying to get the attention of a hanging corpse for the last 10 minutes. The kind of boy I'm going to murder. I was on a late-night bike ride around my quiet suburban neighborhood one night when I couldn't sleep. After riding up a long, steep hill, I stepped off for a moment to catch my breath and enjoy the night air. What I didn't notice right away is that I stopped about 10 feet from a sleeping, homeless-looking man who at first blended in with the shrubbery in the dark. He stirred and looked at me for a moment. I gave him a polite smile and I started to get on my bike when he said, "You look like the kind of boy I'm going to murder." He said it matter-of-factly and then put his head back down and went to sleep. I got on my bike and pedaled pretty quickly out of there and back to my house. I don't go on late-night bike rides anymore. I hope you enjoyed these true, chilling tales. Tune in next Tuesday for more short, scary stories. Don't forget to follow us on Instagram, TikTok, and YouTube. You'll find the link in the show notes. Stay safe, my loves, and remember that real life is more terrifying than fiction.